Thank you everyone for signing up, registering, and joining today's webinar. Today's topic is how to implement quickly and fast with mobile warehouse. For those of you that don't know Protomix, this is our head office. I was fortunate enough last week to go over to Belgium and spend some time in our head office. So if you've been emailing me over the last week or so, I am going to get to your emails hopefully today. So without further ado, this is me. If you need to get a hold of me, obviously I sent the email invite today, so you have my email address. But for those of you watching this on YouTube, this is how you can get a hold of me if you want to install this and try it out yourselves. So this quote kind of summarizes what's happening within the business landscape, and this was presented at the ASUG summit last year. And the modern digitally transformed enterprise knows no walls, operates across a dizzying array of devices, and runs all the time in instant time. And this is really a big change in the way that ERP systems have kind of been, interacting over time. And what's happening now is we're seeing businesses that need to respond faster and be more efficient to survive. They're expecting more out of us as partners, during the implementation process as far as mobile. They're asking for, real-time visibility into things. And this is really changing the way that we're implementing. It's changing the way that we're managing the expectations. Before, it was really easy during an implementation. If a customer asked, can we do barcode scanning in the warehouse, it was easy to say, oh, well, we'll do that phase 2, and then phase 2 never really ever came. And the reason was it was expensive. It was complex because it really was a warehouse management system. And it added way too much complexity for most Business One customers. So what we're seeing is the key to success in this, new kind of world is capturing data once at the source and making it accessible in real time. So it really changes the way we think about implementations because business processes are going to change. And the business processes really kind of that are paper and Excel documents now need to keep pace with what operations is doing because it's no longer acceptable for us to be able to say, well, we'll update the pick list and we'll post it tomorrow. We need to create that delivery document. We need to send the shipping information to the customer. There's just so many different touch points when we're talking about distribution or when we're talking about customer interaction or inventory interaction that we can't wait for the inventory to catch up from the processes. So how do we do this simply and how do we do it efficiently is hopefully what I can kind of show you today. So when we talk about Protomix, this is really kind of the matrix as far as where we focus. So we really focus on shop floor to top floor integration. And we do that through 2 touch points within SAP Business One. One is production and the other is warehouse. And you can see up here we do have solutions. So if you want a warehouse management solution, we do have that capability. If you need production management solution, we have that as well. So if you do have need or if you have prospects or customers that have need for that, please reach out to us and we can talk more about that. But really, the other thing that we're doing is mobility, and this is really working with standard SAP Business One functionality and getting mobile transactions into Business One in that real-time information. So really, that upfront stuff that I was talking about, interacting with it fairly quickly and efficiently. So today we're going to be focused on the mobile warehouse. We do have a mobile operator product as well, which captures time and interacts with the production order. I'll show you today how we can interact with the production order using mobile warehouse as well. So there is some overlap, and in our solutions as well, there's overlap. But just today we're focused on the mobile warehouse side of things. So when we talk about fast implementations, how do we accomplish that? Well, we need to be able to install and configure things simply. Um, it makes it a lot easier for using SAP Business One tables and fields so that it really becomes easy for consultants to understand what's happening. And we use the SAP Business One warehouse and also the SAP Business One bins. You can choose whether or not you want to use bins, just like in a standard Business One implementation. So this makes it really easy for consultants to understand what's happening. It's not like it's a full solution that has its own tables or its own database, and you have these interfaces that need to be interacting. Everything that's happening is happening real time. So that's the first point that really makes it easy to do a fast implementation using Mobile Warehouse, is that everything that we're doing is just connecting to standard SAP Business One. The other thing that helps in making a fast and efficient implementation is having complete documentation and a user guide, and having simple, quick videos for transactions so that consultants can kind of stay ahead of the customer. And we can also provide these videos to the customer so that they can understand things. And we've also developed a wiki where we can keep track of common trends and documentation. So I'm just going to jump over and show you some of this now. So when we talk about the documentation, we have a installation and configuration guide that goes step by step on exactly what's happening. So it becomes really easy. It's paint by number for us to be able to install and configure the product. We have a user guide that shows every transaction the flow as far as what the behaviors are going to be, and also screenshots of how to process your screens as you're going through it. So you can see, again, it becomes really easy for us to go through a process with the customer, say, is this going to work? And because this connects really quickly, we can actually do these transactions, as part of the prototyping process. So instead of it being, oh, we'll wait till phase 2, we can actually make this as part of the implementation. When we're doing a goods receipt, instead of doing it in Business One, we can actually do it on the handheld device and see how it's behaving in real time. So that's the first thing that becomes really important to note, is that we do have the ability to review documentation. It's easy to follow. It reads well, good screenshots and such. I'm just getting some background noise from somebody, so if you can please mute out. Thank you. The other thing that I mentioned is the videos. So you can see here that we have on this YouTube, and I'll copy this and paste it into the chat right now so that you can subscribe to this. We post videos here kind of on a monthly, bi-weekly basis. We'll post little quick videos, or when there's a new feature that's been added, or if we're asked something, we can go through and we can have a look at it. So you can see here when we go to the tutorials area, we have every single process kind of laid out in these quick little 5-minute videos. It becomes really easy for us when we're implementing to go in and review this tutorial, review the documentation, and document that with the customer very quickly, and get implementation moving in the proper direction. So our user guides and installations are all available in 2 places. One is on our portal. So if you have not been to our portal, I do invite you to go and subscribe to the portal. You'll get a login, and you can go in and you can actually see here all of our documentation is laid out cleanly. But we also have our wiki, and our wiki is where we have all of our different release notes and guides, any kind of information that you would need in order to go through and review things. So that's probably the most important thing that I find with being able to do an implementation of any kind of product is is there good documentation? Is it clear? Is it understandable? And it makes it a lot easier if the business process is a standard SAP Business One process. So it becomes really easy and efficient for us to go through and review documentation and stay that step ahead of a customer when we're implementing. So I'm going to go through now and review the configuration and a little bit of the technical structure, and then I'm going to do some transactions and show you how the handheld device behaves. I did mention at the beginning that if you want to install this in your own demo environment, please reach out to me. It takes about an hour for us to install this. It's very clean and simple and easy to install, and it becomes really easy for you to actually see that you can actually get up and running within an hour of posting transactions, and you can kind of complete a implementation of an existing SAP Business One customer in as little as 4 to 8 hours of effort. If they're already doing transactions, it's just a matter of installing it, testing it, and you're up and running. If you're doing this in conjunction with the new implementation, again, if it's part of the processes, it becomes really easy for you to go through and review things. Where in a new customer environment is really looking at the customizing. I do invite you to look at the YouTube channel and see some of the other behaviors that are available within the customizing. So if we go back to the documentation, and if we go to the installation and configuration guide, and if we look here, you can see that there's really 3 main parts to what we do. The first is that we install an add-on within SAP Business One, because that is, as I mentioned earlier, where all of the information lives is within standard SAP Business One tables and fields. So you can see here that we've just added in our tables right within Business One. The next thing that we have is the service broker, and what the service broker does is it reads the TCP transactions going back and forth between the mobile device and this broker, and it translates that and writes it to the DI API, but it also translates anything coming out of Business One and writes it back to the handheld device for it to understand what's going on. So when you read the documentation here, it says, the add-on must be installed in Business One. It's used mainly for setup and administrative purposes. It does not need to be running for the mobile devices to work. So I'm just going to show you here the service broker, and I'll show you how it connects. So you go in, and basically you can create your connection here to your server, whether it's HANA or SQL. You create your connection, and then you just go in and you create your connection into your databases here. So you can see all the different databases that we have available. And over here you can see the databases that I've actually connected the mobile warehouse to. So I have a handful of demo environments that I've connected to. And this broker just sits and listens, and it's sitting and listening, and it's listening using these little APIs. You can see here this is our mobile warehouse API that it's listening. But we've also used this technology across our other mobile devices. So the mobile worker that I talked about in the original screen is using this here. You can see the mobile worker API is here. And we also have our production data collection with our manufacturing that's using the same platform for communicating. So what's nice about this is from a support and from an implementation perspective, regardless of the Protomix products that you're working with, it becomes really easy for you to learn and understand exactly how this is doing. So this just runs as a service, and all it's doing is listening and translating. Then the next piece that we install is the actual application, and this application gets installed onto a mobile device, and that mobile device could be a handheld scanner like this. It could be an emulated onto a laptop like this, and we can also make this screen look like a touch screen so that it doesn't look like a scanner device here. For the demo purposes today, I have it looking like a scanner, but you could have this just as a full screen touch screen device on a laptop, for example, or on a forklift or anything like that. You can have it you know, as a tablet. So this is using Windows Mobile technology or Windows for the connection, and all it's doing is it installs using a cabinet file, or when you run the install, you can synchronize it to install. When you install it on a Windows device like this, it just literally installs onto the server itself. So you can see it's actually a program on the server here. So it's not like an emulator that the emulator has this product. So that's why it's really easy to install this. And when we install and connect it, what we do is we just connect to the database. So you can see here, these are the databases that that were connected earlier, and they're just simply connected. Good question. I got a question come through on the chat here. The question is there any prerequisites or version limitations for the product? So if we go out to our portal and look at the install files, when we go to the portal here, we support 9.0, 9.1, and 9.2. So if we go into our software downloads here, and if we go into our mobile warehouse, you can see here we have our official releases here. And you can see here that there's a June release, and this was our last official 9.0 release. And then we have our 9.1 and 9.2 releases here. And you can see here that we always have HANA and SQL development. And then if we just go up a level here, I'm just going to go up a level just so that we can see here, we always have release notes. And within the release notes, we keep track of if there's any patch levels that we have problems with, or you know, there's DI issues or anything like that. If there's any known limitations, we keep track of everything here, so it becomes really easy to see exactly you know, what the prerequisites, you know, as far as what we're testing on and what we're kind of building up to. So you can see here basically now on this release, 9.1 is the supported and going forward, but we do have a 9.0 release, but if there's any bugs, obviously we're going to tell you to upgrade to 9.1 or 9.2. Hopefully that answered your question. So that's really the technical structure. So we have an add-on in Business One that's really used just to add tables and for a little bit of administration. And then we have the broker that's just translating and listening for information. And then we have the actual device that sits there and you know, does the interaction and transacting. So the next thing that we need to do is we need to log into this device. So you can see here that it's asking for a user, and I'm just going to log in here and show you how these different users behave. So if we log in, what we do is we don't use the SAP Business One user. We license the terminal. So you buy a license per terminal. So if you have 5 scanners in your warehouse, you would buy 5 licenses from Protomix, and you then use the service manager to connect using the DI, the indirect access user, and then we use the human resources screen here for authorizations and for the login information. So you can see here that Mark Manager has full access to everything. So when we go and look at the different types of transactions that we can do, We can do receiving goods either from a purchase order or just doing a goods receipt PO on the fly, or a free goods receipt PO as it's called. We can interact with a production order, so we can issue goods to a production order. We can return goods from a production order. We can receive finished goods from a production order. We can also deal with byproducts. We can create delivery documents from a sales order. We can create delivery documents from a pick list. We can create issue to production from a pick list. We can do packing. So after you create your delivery, we can do the SAP Business One packing, and I'll show some of these transactions in a few minutes. We can do a create a delivery document. So if you have an account already established, and you just create the delivery document and away they go. And we also have some advanced features here where we can interact with batch numbers and create a delivery document for batches, or a sales order for batches. And there's videos on this online. We can process a credit note and also do sales returns. We can move inventory around, so we can do a stock transfer, just saying I'm moving this from one warehouse to another, or I'm moving this from one bin to another bin, or I'm moving this from a bin managed warehouse to a non-bin managed warehouse. We have this concept of a mass transfer, and this is where I can say everything that's in this warehouse is now in this warehouse. So if you have a quarantine, and then after you're done quarantine, you can move everything. We have this mass transfer feature that does that. We have a transfer request where we can process transfer requests from Business One. And then again, interacting with batch numbers. So there's videos on the YouTube channel that talk about the batch number processing. The recommendations I'll cover in another webinar, but really what these are is when you receive goods and you receive them into a certain bin location, and then it can make recommendations for put away, so kind of like a smart put away. And also if you have picking bins, if you fall below the bin level, it will make a recommendation for you to do a stock transfer. So that's about as deep into SAP Business One warehouse management solution as we get is this right here. The rest of it is just really doing Business One transactions on a mobile device. So we can do a goods receipt. I found inventory. A goods issue. I don't have an inventory. We support SAP Business One stock counting, so multiple counters or single counters. And then we also just have the ability to just look up where items are, print labels for bin locations, print labels for items from here. So if we go in here, I can, key in an L01 item, and then I can load, and it'll show me everywhere that I have that item. So you'll notice that I'm keying right now, so you don't necessarily need to have a scanner to use the mobile warehouse. The scanner really kind of helps with that process, as far as being able to transact. So we add the employee, and we create the login. Obviously, this user has all of the login credentials. I'm going to log in as myself here, and you can see that you can control and limit permissions based off of using these screens. You can go in and you can create different permissions for different users. So really quick and easy for us to add multiple users. What's really nice about this is that we can control what people are capable of doing. We can also know what people are doing. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to actually start doing some transactions, and you can kind of see how during the implementation process the different touch points that you'll have to kind of think about and configure. But what's nice about this, as I mentioned earlier, is that everything that we do is standard Business One. So if I just go in here and add these Lego items here, we support the SAP Business One barcode, so you can set up multiple different barcodes here. So again, this is all stuff that an SAP consultant knows and is capable of doing. We support the new SAP Business One unit of measure, and then within that unit of measure, you can see here that we can have different barcodes for those unit of measures. So I'll add this item just to show you. And then we support the SAP Business One bins. So we use the SAP Business One bin locations. So there's nothing really, that we're really adding to Business One. Everything that we're doing is standard Business One. So I'm going to add this L01 item twice, once for bin managed warehouse and once for non-bin managed warehouse. And so again, this is just standard Business One. And that's really the only things that you really need to interact with when you're thinking about the implementation side of things is there a different barcode than the item? Is there unit of measures that we want to capture? And do we want bin managed warehouses or non-bin managed warehouses? So we'll add that document. And when we go to the mobile device, you're going to notice that it's really easy to train people on how this works, because we go here, we go to our goods receipt, and the first thing that we have is find mode. So if I knew the document, I could literally just type the document and load, and it would bring up just that one document. If I didn't know the document and I wanted to bring up a list, here's a list of all of the purchase orders and reserve invoices that are open right now for us to process. If I just knew the vendor and I didn't know the vendor code, the V1010 there, we could go in, click the ellipse here, type in FAR, load, and choose that, and now we could load this, and you can see that now it's narrowed it down to 2 documents. So this is just find mode up here. In the item field here, we support both the keying in the item number. We have the find mode here, so if if it's Lego and you don't know the item numbers, you have, here's all the Lego blocks, and then you could choose. We also support the barcode scanning, so you're going to hear me barcode scan now, and I'm going to barcode scan the barcode, and you'll see that it converts that to the L01 item. I can also just scan an L01 barcode, and it will just know. So again, when you're implementing, it's not like you have to go and use both the barcode and the item code. If your customer just wants to use the item code, that's fine. Make it a barcode and we can read it, or the user can key it in, or they can find it and choose it. So at this point, I'm going to receive, and you can see here, here's the line. So there's nothing really special about this. All it's doing is presenting the document just like Business One would. Here's the row number, here's the item that we're expecting, and what we're expecting to receive. You can see here on this one we have our unit of measure set up, so you can actually go and convert this to the different pieces. And if you change this, it will change the quantity. So if I change this to a box, you can see I'm expecting 2.5 boxes. If I change it to pieces, it's going to show me that I'm expecting 50 pieces. Now, what's nice about this versus doing a SAP Business One implementation is when you do a goods receipt in Business One, you can do copy to or copy from, and then you have to go through and delete lines. You have to try and find the lines. This literally has a find mode, so I can literally just scan the barcode. It'll find the items, and then I just say add, and if it's bin managed, it's going to put the default bin location there. I can change that if I want, and then I can enter my quantity, and from here I can print a label if I needed to, and you can see that it's processed that line. If we do our L06 item here, it finds that line. It then is going to ask me for a batch number because this item is batch managed. So it's just using the Business One behaviors here. So you can see this is batch managed, so it's going to ask me for a batch. And here, you can scan a batch number, or you could key a batch number. You can enter in the quantity that you're receiving for that batch. We can capture, the attributes, the expiry date, all of those different fields that Business One has on the batch information. We add the line. So it's that simple. So the 2 that I've done so far have been bin managed. This is a non-bin managed. So if we go and do a non-bin manage, you just put in the quantity that you're receiving here and you say add, and it processes that line, and then you could print your label from here. So again, really easy for the user to understand. And then when I say done, it shows you what you've received here, and then I can simply post. And this is happening all real time into the database. If we refresh here, you can now see that this item is the one that I didn't receive. These are the items that I did. We can go, everything is standard business one. So again, from an implementation perspective, this is really easy because here's my goods receipt PO. Here's my batch transaction report. So implementation consultants don't have to learn about, the mobile warehouse batch fields and all of that information, because everything is standard business one. All we're doing is interacting and transacting with business one in an easy real-time fashion. So if we go, I'll just show you a couple of different transactions here, and then we'll get into picking and packing. So in a production order, you can see it's the same process. Find mode, bring up your documents, pick your document, issue your components. It's going to ask you what items you're grabbing. You add your item. It asks you what bin location you're getting it from. We can add our bin location here. If I didn't know what bin location, I can click this Find Stock, and it'll show you where you have items. And then I'm going to add that, and then say Done, and then Post, and that does an issue to production. So if we go in to Business One, there's our issue for production. So everything that we're doing is from a mobile device, and it's standard business one transactions. So this is where doing an implementation, you no longer have to really sell a SAP Business One user to the back, because you can just use the mobile device to do all that inventory transactions. So I'm going to get into pick and pack now and show you pick and pack. So if we just go and create a sales order here, we'll just do a couple of items here. We can add the sales order. Now, obviously the audience that's here today understands how the pick and pack manager works, so I can create a pick list right from here instead of doing the pick and pack. And now I've created this pick list, and as you know, you could run the pick and pack manager and you could have multiple documents here. But if we go over to the mobile device here and we go to picking, we can load, here's all of the pick lists that are open, and there's more than 20. You can see this is pick list number 200. So this is a setting, and this is the first time that I'm going to talk about the settings, because everything that we're doing is kind of out of the box as once we install. We can go in to the settings here, and we can change behaviors on the handheld. So I call this settings, but it's really behaviors of how you want the handheld to behave. And you can see here, how many documents do you want it to grab when you do a find mode. This is just so it doesn't run away on you if you have 20,000 records or something like that. So here, there's our document. We say pick, and what it's done is it's put these items in order here. You go over, you scan your item, or you can pick your line here and say pick. You tell it what bin location. You can see here that it's making a recommended bin location, and this is based off of the bin attributes that you define within SAP Business One bins. But I can, through settings again, if you go here and look at settings, behaviors on the handheld, am I allowed to change the bin location or serial numbers, yes or no? So I can go in here now, and I can choose a different bin if I wanted. And I can, process that line. And it puts that line to the bottom, and then it puts the next line here for me to pick. And I can scan my bin location that I got that item. And again, if I don't know where that item is, or if I walk to 9901 and there's no items there, I can click Find Stock. It's going to show you where you have items and how many you have. And then you process your line. And then now I'm going to pause for a second because I've posted these lines. Now, depending on the business process, if we just refresh this pick list right now, you see how these are picked? So I could from here create my delivery or my invoice, whatever I wanted to do, or I could finish that on the handheld. So I can click Deliver here, and then this is going to create our delivery document 616. And now if we refresh this pick list will now be closed. And there's our sales order. And we can go to our target document here. And there's our delivery document 616. So that's really, from an implementation perspective, that's really one of the only areas that you really have to kind of, talk about business process, because everything that we're doing is standard business one. So if we just go and look at that delivery document again, and call up the delivery document, Business One has this concept of a packing slip. So we can go through and we can, add these items, move it over, and package it. Most customers don't do this because, you got to go into Business One and do it, and it's difficult. But over here, what we can do is we can do packing right from the handheld device. So we can go in and we pick up our packing here. We can enter in our delivery document or our sales order number, or we can just click Find and find everything here. And now we can pack. And here we can, create a package number, or we can, scan a package number. We can pack this, and then this is where we can, validate those items. So if I scan an item that's not in the list here, it's going to say that item's not in the list, so we can go back and, figure out what we did wrong. So here I'm going to put in my item here, validate it. So I can either scan, like you just heard, or I can go and I can select here. I can say pack the selected. And you can see that I processed the two lines. So you can either do it through scanning or you can do it through clicking. And now when I say pack here, it says packed already. If we just refresh our delivery document, go to the packing slip, you can see that these items have now moved over. You can see the package content is 1, 2, 3. And you can see, how easy it is to, interact with Business One and do some of these features that before, kind of felt cumbersome, and, it was always kind of, well, you can do that phase 2 sort of topic. So that is really, the process behind, how easy it is to interact. There's lots of different transactions, but, from an implementation perspective, it's really simple and easy to get up and running and posting documents in real time. And everything that we do is standard Business One behavior. So it becomes really easy for your consultants to use a mobile device without having to, learn a whole new set of tables or a whole new business process. Everything that we're doing is just complementing Business One, which really leads to that quote at the beginning of today's webinar, which is, get business transactions going real time in, multiple different types of devices. So if you wanted this on a laptop, if you wanted it on a scanner gun, if you wanted it, just like I showed, with an emulated product, it's really easy to get up and running. So I did mention at the beginning of the webinar, if you want to install this in your own demo environment, please send me an email. I can arrange an appointment with you. It takes about an hour for us to get this installed, and you can start posting and testing and working through different scenarios, and working through different types of transactions. You can do it on your own, and because it's all standard business one, it's really easy for you to see that and interact with it. So the next thing I'm going to do is talk about the other side of implementing SAP Business One, and that is the ability to add user-defined fields and those types of things. So I'm just going to turn on this customization assist here right now, and I'm going to open up the mobile device again. And there's a bunch of videos on the YouTube channel that I put in the list there that you can go through and have a look at. But when we open up our mobile device now, you can see that I have this little C up in the top corner. And what this is doing is if we just go in, for example, to a goods receipt PO and reload here and go to receive, if I want to see everything that it's pulling, I can click on this C, and it brings up this table here for us to see everything that we're reading in real time. So what's nice about this is that we can actually see all the different types of behaviors that we're reading. And the other thing that we do is we have these queries here. So you can see here this VX Mobile Warehouse 9 load screen. So we can set up a query that will read data from the handheld device. Now, I don't know if anybody saw, but when I was doing picking, and I was in a pick list here, and I was in the line, do you see this user-defined field here, Chris, with an N on it? This is an example of a custom field that I've added. So you can see that we actually add that in to our data set here that we read. And then you can also see down here that the load screen here is true now. So how we do this is really simple. All we do is we use the SAP Business One queries, and you write a query that says, pick list, line, normal, screen, load. So you'll notice here if I go back, if I click on the C here, you can see that that query name is the query name that we want down here. So if you wanted to validate data after doing it, we have validate queues. So there's all different types of behaviors here that you can do as far as customizing. But here, when I load, I want it to read from RDR1 the doc entry, the pick list line, and the line num here. And, it just goes and reads that, and it pulls that through. And it's just going to return that value there. So you can see it's just returning the values that that query reads. So it becomes really easy for us to, go and write fields in and change behavior of reading. So if you wanted to change the quantity, or if you wanted to change any type of field. Now you'll also notice here that we have read-only and text fields here available, and all of that is done through our customization field screen here, where we can go in and we can add user-defined fields to different screens. So you can see here, here's my Chris screen, that's telling me if it's a bill of material or not. So it goes through and it reads if that's a bill of material item or not, and it returns a yes or no here based off of the item that you select. So again, both of these are no, but all it's doing is reading the information and processing that information based off of the user-defined fields that you've added and any of the queries that you've added. So there's a bunch of really good examples on the YouTube channel of how to do these types of things. So if you go and look here, there's a whole video on how to customize here, a tutorial on that, and then we have how to add a user-defined field, how to add a formatted search, how to how to interact with the printing, how to interact with all different types of little snippets, which makes it really easy when you're implementing to just watch this quick little video, see the example, and quickly do that for your customer. If you are wondering about can you do a certain process, we invite you to send us an email, send support an email asking if it's possible to do those types of things. We can kind of get you pointed in the right direction as far as customizing. So this really is kind of what I wanted to cover today, is the ability to do inventory movements, interact with Standard Business One. It's really simple and clean and easy to see exactly what's happening. It's not like it's a whole process change and a whole different way of interacting with Business One, where warehouse management solution historically has been like. So hopefully you can see that the only thing medieval about us is our head office, and that we really are your source for mobility with Business One. Should you have any questions, please get a hold of me. If you want to install this demo environment, send me an email. Like I said, it takes an hour for us to do it. Send me an email. We can set up a time to do it, and we can get you up and running. I'm going to stop recording now. I will open this up to questions.